The Advance Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act 2006 says, when any person by false pretense and with the intent to defraud obtains for himself or any other person by false pretense, that person has committed advance fee fraud. On today's edition of the program, The Eagle, we shall be examining the trend of the advance fee fraud and how the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is waging war against the menace. My name is Aisha Gampari. It is nice joining you again on the program after a short break. Presenting with me is Aisha Mohammed. Hello, Aisha.
Hi, Aisha. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for joining us again on the program. And to our numerous viewers, thank you for keeping a date with us on the program. In addition to the special report on advance fee fraud, our reporter, Zainab Sana Ahmed, will bring to you highlights of activities within and outside the EFCC.
We'll begin with the special report. In this report, Rolake Odofin Jolayemi will bring to you a blow-by-blow account of how the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is waging war against the incidences of advance fee fraud. The expression, otherwise known as 419 in the Nigerian parlance, got its name from Section 419 of the Nigerian Constitution, which describes the crime. Please stay tuned.
The incidences of advance fee fraudsters, also known as 419 in Nigeria, before the advent of the EFCC, was such a sorry situation, as many Nigerians and even foreigners with genuine business proposals ended up falling victims of fraud, with some not only losing investments, but also their lives. The fraudsters employ different tactics to trick their victims. This type of fraud describes cases in which criminal fraudsters convince the victim to partake in a business which they mostly present as genuine, but which is not. There are several types of advance fee fraud. They include career opportunity scams, clairvoyance or psychic scams, check overpayment fraud, dating or romance scams, fraud recovery fraud, and identity theft. Others are inheritance fraud, loan scams, lottery, and sweepstakes scams. Whatever form it takes, it usually begins with the fraudster presenting a profit or reward-gaining venture to the victim. The aim of every proposal from a fraudster is to strip the victim of his possessions, either in monetary form or in property form. Clairvoyance or psychic scam is one form of advance fee fraud known as juju scam in the Nigerian parlance. The apparently psychic or clairvoyant fraudsters approach their victims by email, post, telephone call, or even face-to-face contact. When total strangers approach you with stories that they have seen something wonderful or terrible about your future, you may not need any other tale that you are being lined up to be fleeced. They may claim to be able to give you winning lottery numbers or offer to remove a curse or a spell. The tales deployed as baits for victims are many. Some claim to possess powers that can heal or provide remedy to certain ailments. They may also tell you that you are in some kind of trouble, but a solution is within reach. Some even go as far as telling you they can produce currency notes or that they have some marked notes somewhere and they need money to buy chemicals to wash it. A demo operation is carried out in which the mugu, as they call their victim, is taken through the motion of a paper being washed to become hard currency, often the US dollar. The process usually ends with the victim being told to help source for money to purchase the expensive chemical for a cut of the deal. This form of scam is common in Nigeria, with many victims losing lifetime investments to fraudsters. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, waged into the war against this genre of fraud in 2005 after the Commission unraveled a huge incidence of fraud in which a Brazilian bank was defrauded of over $200,000 by a fraud syndicate led by Emmanuel Umude. The Commission arrested the syndicate and recovered the money, which was restituted to the victim, the Brazilian bank. Not relenting in its efforts to rid the country of activities of fraudsters, operatives of the Commission have continued to arrest notorious fraudster syndicates who had defrauded a number of innocent victims of money and other valuables. Friday Ebelo is the head of the Advanced Fee Fraud Unit of the EFCC.
The conceptualization of the EFCC can be traced to the menace of the advanced fee fraud, and that is why one of the reasons why the EFCC was actually born, and we have achieved a lot of successes. There's still a lot of room for improvement, and we've come a long way. If we have to place our record from inception to date, we'll be talking over 5,000 convictions from the advanced fee fraud alone.
How can one avoid being a victim of EFF?
So the circumspective one, you just have to ask yourself some basic questions. You don't need a rocket science to, you don't need to be taught in the classroom that these are the lessons, these are the way to avoid this, but you just have to ask yourself some basic questions. Why am I the person that this fellow is calling that, oh, this kind of investment is in town? Or there's an inheritance that I need to inherit from one person or the other. Why must it be me? What I always tell the victims that come around that we assist here, I tell them that if it's too good, then there's a red flag. If the interest, if the amount, if the returns on investment is too high, there's a red flag. You don't just it's not something like you do an impulse kind of reaction or no. You need to ask yourself, when you see some of these phishing mail come to you or some of these unsolicited messages come to you, you don't just start giving your personal details. No. You just have to sit down and ask yourself some basic questions. Why am I the one this person sending this person to? And most of these informations are given by friends or close associates to the guy that's the scammers. So they have a kind of a background, they have done a kind of background check on you. So they can give you, maybe if you have a nickname when you were growing up, they can call you by that nickname. That will take you off balance, say that, oh, this person might have some inkling about me.
What can be done if one becomes a victim?
You need to discuss with a professional. You need to, if you are in any of our cities where we have any of our office, you need to reach out to any EFCC officer. If they can't attend to you, they will bring it to us. And in coming to us, we'll be able to ask you one or two questions and advise proper solutions on how to go about it. We can even still put you on how to relay with these scammers so as to see how we can effect their arrest.
Adejare Kembi is a legal practitioner. He speaks about the trend of advanced fee fraud and the legal perspectives to spiritualism.
The law has made provisions. First and foremost, let me say that if we make a false presentation or representation, that is what we call obtaining under false pretenses. So it is an avenue, but it is criminal. However, the law makes provision under what we call money held and received. It is applicable in contract cases. It is also applicable in criminal instances where you have made a promise to me upon which I have changed my position and money had passed. Where that promise is not kept, I have the right to sue you in civil causes to recover that money.
Some people say the law does not recognize voodoo or juju. Is it the same with you?
We are wrong in saying that the law does not recognize juju. The criminal code actually makes provisions for such a circumstance. So the law recognizes juju. It does. However, where the juju is used for criminal purposes, the law again makes provision either for the suspect to be tried. That is when we talk about going through ordeal. The law makes provision for trial by ordeal and so on, which is a format where even a man who believes in juju says, for instance, I have caught a witch, right, and puts the poor girl or boy through such a serious situation that the law does not expect. That juju man is liable for trial under the trial by ordeal provisions of the criminal code. So we actually have provisions that have adequately provided for such. And don't forget, that criminal code is over 100 years old. So if you realize that 100 years ago, we have made provisions for such, and it is still valid now, how can we say that we did not recognize juju or we did not make provisions for such a situation? We have.
How can evidence be established in cases involving spiritual fraud?
Simple. No man will lay emphasis on spiritualism as a means of deceit without having something to show for it. Either a shrine, a concocted place where something is said to go on. Those are the evidences that you need to prove to show that, look, this man has shown me this as a basis upon which I parted with money, I parted with property. Right. However, even the Evidence Act had even made it a little bit simpler now by virtue of the recent amendment that was made. All you need is a picture or a recording of such and a certificate from the hand of the person who did the recording. So you are no longer required to carry the shrine to the court. Because, in fact, sometimes, you know, Nigerians, for what we are, even if the judge says the shrine, the judge might run.
Do you think Nigerians have tendencies to be spiritual individuals?
We do. We do. From the presidency to the laborer, all of us tend to be spiritual in one way or the other. And that spirituality marks our action, whether positively or negatively.
Section 2 of the Advanced Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act 2006 gives power to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to arrest, investigate and prosecute advanced fee fraud offenders. The Act states that a person who with intent to defraud represents himself as possessing the power or as capable of doubling or otherwise increasing any sum of money through scientific or any other medium of invocation of any juju or other invisible entity, or of anything whatsoever, commits an offence and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term not more than 15 years and not less than 5 years without the option of a fine. Rolake Odofinjolaimi, reporting for the Eagle.
Thank you, Rolake. The public is hereby warned to be wary of these fraudsters. When you see something that looks too good to be true, then it is not true. Report any suspicious activity to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
Corruption is a cankerworm, na cankerworm. I said na cankerworm, na cankerworm. Corruption don't finish our country. Nigeria women rise up and come together, oh yeah.
Every woman come out, but we fight corruption together, oh. Every woman fall out, but we kill corruption together, oh.
Them they thief our money, send them obodo yibo. Children they suffer every day, better school in no day. Nigeria women come, oh. Women from every sector, make we fight corruption, we won't kill our country. Them go collect money for light, chop the money, light we no see. Good road and good health and call, we no see. I said na cankerworm, oh, na cankerworm, oh.
Join the EFCC in its crusade to rid Nigeria of corruption. Naija, now we all know.
Next on the program, the acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ibrahim Mustafa Magu, has once again stressed that no one will be untouchable as the agency intensifies its anti-corruption crusade. Magu made the declaration at the 20th anniversary public lecture and award ceremony of the Finance Correspondent Association of Nigeria, FICAN, which held at Top Rank Hotel, Utako in Abuja. Zainab Sani Ahmed has more on this.
In his paper titled Corruption and National Development, Issues, Challenges and Solutions, Magu, who was represented by Tony Orilade, acting head EFCC's Public Interface Unit, pinpointed corruption as the main reason why Nigeria has been unable to fully reach its potential as the giant of Africa. He said the country is blessed with both human and mineral resources but has been unable to exploit these potentials to the fullest, which he attributed to the high rate of corruption in and within the polity. Magu said anywhere in the world where strict adherence to ethics and values by the citizenry is lacking, there will always be obvious defeats in morals, which is the antidote to corruption.
But why have we been unable to explore and exploit our potentials to the fullest? Your answer is as good as mine: corruption. Corruption is no doubt at the heart of why a media house will owe its teeming staff members their salary, despite their toil day and night to ensure that the publication does not miss the light of the day. Corruption is the reason why our roads have become death traps. It is the reason why our hospitals have remained in deplorable states, and we have become a leading African country, exporting medical personnel to developed countries.
He noted that such attacks were not only being waged on pages of newspapers, but also indirect attacks on operatives of the agency. Two of such incidences, he said, occurred on August 16th in Abuja and June 24th in Port Harcourt, where a top investigator was shot but escaped death by the whiskers. He seized the opportunity to call on all citizens, including the journalists, to support the fight against corruption, even as the anti-graft agency remains unrelenting in pursuing its mandate of ridding Nigeria of all forms of economic and financial crimes. Also speaking at the event, Bukka Abba commended the doggedness of the EFCC in combating corruption and described Magu as transparent and courageous. Simeon Ogwebulem, chairman of Finance Correspondents Association of Nigeria, FICAN, stressed that as law-abiding association, it puts the interests of the nation at heart and never aims at bringing anyone down. Zainab Sani Ahmed reporting for the Eagle.
Glad to have you join us again. The program is The Eagle, coming to you from the stables of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Please don't forget to join us on our social media portals at Official EFCC across all the social media platforms to share your comment. Next on the program is an important announcement. Please stay tuned.
The public is hereby notified that the persons whose photographs appear on the screen are wanted by the EFCC. Zoran Umansky is wanted in a case of obtaining money by false pretense, stealing, forgery, and altering. The suspect is at large, while efforts to apprehend him has proved abortive. The light-skinned 57-year-old Israeli speaks English, Hebrew, and Yoruba languages. His last known addresses are Signature Suites, Asaba, Delta State, and 52A, Tunde Adebola Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. Shobowale Toyin Hana and Hamed Akinola Ariomi are wanted in a case of conspiracy and obtaining money on the false pretenses. The suspects are at large, while all efforts to apprehend them have proved futile. Shobowale is 44 years old. Her last known address is 100 Accra Church Street, Abere Bus Stop, Ajayi Egon Road, Ota, Sango, Ota. Ariomi is 33 years old. His last known address is 6 Sanu Street, Adura Bus Stop, Alagbado, Lagos State. Both suspects are dark complexioned, hailed from Ogun State, and speak English and Yoruba languages. Itu Afyong Theresa Tommy is the principal suspect in 2 cases of fraud, contractual malpractices, and obtaining goods under false pretense to the tune of 1 billion naira and $1.4 million respectively. Itu allegedly received about 1 billion naira from a government agency as payment for contracts which she failed to properly execute. Furthermore, the suspect is alleged to have fraudulently collected aircraft parts worth over $1 million from a Russian company and evaded payment. The suspect has failed to honor the Commission's invitation and is currently at large. 48-year-old Itu is fair in complexion. Her last known address is number 2B, Okwawo Close, Victoria Island, Lagos. The public is hereby notified that Dr. Mrs. Ngozi Juliet Olejeme, whose photograph appears on screen, is wanted in a case of criminal conspiracy, abuse of office, diversion of public funds, and money laundering. The former chairman of Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund, NSITF, is alleged to have, along with Mr. Umar Munir Abubakar, the former managing director of NSITF, mismanaged and diverted well over 69 billion naira government funds into their personal accounts through the award of suspicious and bogus contracts to proxy companies. Olejeme has refused to honor repeated invitations from the commission. The fair-skinned suspect hails from Asaba, Oshimili South local government area of Delta State and speaks English and Igbo languages fluently. Her last known address is number 14 Jeff A. Kennedy Street, Asokoro, Abuja. Adjunct Professor Olufumilade Adeyemi, whose photograph appears on screen, is also wanted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC in a case of obtaining by false pretense and diversion of funds. The suspect is the managing director of Stealth Groups Limited and is alleged to have swindled unsuspecting victims of the sum of 34 million naira under the guise of selling property situated within Complete Leisure Estate to them. Adeyemi is dark in complexion and hails from Ikeja local government area of Lagos State. He speaks English and Yoruba languages fluently. His last known address is plot 820 Alhaji Shamsi Thomas Crescent, Omole Face, Ikeja, Lagos, and number 13B, Oba Elegushi Beach Road, Lekki, Lagos. Haruna Adamu Gazau, whose photograph appears below, is wanted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC for offences bordering on criminal breach of trust and obtaining money under false pretense. Gazau, the principal suspect, was arrested alongside one Kabir Dan Shagamu and later granted administrative bail to his shorty, one Abubakar Ahmad Abubakar, a staff of State Universal Basic Education Board, Subeb, Kano State. However, immediately after his release on July 4, 2017, he refused to report to the Commission. All further efforts to apprehend and produce him to court to face criminal charges before Justice Shuaib Lawan of the Federal High Court Kaduna have proved abortive. The light-skinned fugitive is 40 years old, a Gombe State indigene, and is fluent in Hausa and English. His last known address is Line 2, Angwon Fulani, Jankanwa Masaka, Nasarawa State. The public is hereby notified that Jennifer Timipre Turner, whose photograph appears on the screen, is wanted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC in a case of criminal conspiracy, money laundering, and stealing to the tune of over 1 billion naira. The suspect, who is the wife of Barrister George Alaba Turner, a former special assistant to the then managing director of Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, is a signatory to some of the companies her husband allegedly used to launder monies meant for youth development. Bank accounts of the shell companies Celtic Pride Global Services Limited, West Oak Multi-Concept Limited, Elepen Educational Center Limited, Cinco Ranch Hotels and Apartment Nigeria Limited, and Dubai Stores and Supermarkets Nigeria Limited were used to launder the stolen funds. The suspect has refused to honor repeated invitations from the Commission and is currently on the run. A native of Kolokuma, Opokuma, local government area of Bayelsa State, the fair-skinned suspect is 30 years old and speaks Ijaw and English languages fluently. Her last known address is number 2A 9th Street, Saitek Estate, Abuja. Anybody with useful information as to the whereabouts of these people should contact the EFCC via its Enugu, Benin, Ibadan, Kano, Kaduna, Lagos, Maiduguri, Gombe, Port Harcourt and Abuja offices or through these numbers 0809 3322 644. You can also send an email via info@efccnigeria.org or the nearest police station and other security agencies.
Corruption is dishonesty and illegal behavior by people in positions of trust. A public office is a public trust. Do not abuse positions of trust for private gains. Stay away from corruption. Nigeria is a great nation, and it is our responsibility to make the country greater. If you notice any act of corruption, please report to the EFCC via info@efccnigeria.org or call 09 904 4751 or 09 904 4752. You can also call 09 904 4753. This message is from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
From that announcement, we'll move to the feedback segment. To be part of the segment, just log on to our social media platforms at Official EFCC across all the social media networks. Please stay tuned for the feedback segment.
We start with our Facebook platform at Official EFCC, where Johannes Alfred dropped a comment and it reads, "Please EFCC, when someone who is being investigated suddenly dies, what becomes of the case? Does the investigation also die a natural death? Or what really is the next course of action in such a situation? Help me out." Thank you for that question, Alfred. When a principal suspect in a case dies, the case automatically dies because you can't prosecute a dead person who has no means of defending his or herself. But when a case involves more than one individual and anyone dies from among the suspects, the case continues against the other co-defendants. Ali Jerome via Facebook also says, "You have done a great job. We are expecting you in our state, Ondo State, to settle missing money between the current government and the former governor." Thanks, Ale, for your comment. Please send your petition detailing all claims and address to the Executive Chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, 5 Formella Street, off Adetokunbo, Adimola Crescent, Wusetu, Abuja, or via info@efccnigeria.org.
Thank you for being part of the feedback segment. Please continue sending your comments to us. We appreciate your participation in that segment. And with that feedback segment, we'll call it a day on this week's edition of The Eagle. Join us next week and on the same station for another interesting package.
To leave a comment, please log onto our social media portals at Official EFCC across all the social media platforms. My name is Aisha Muhammad.
I am Aisha Gambari. Be part of the change that you desire in this country. Thank you very much for watching. God bless Nigeria.